They targeted a mid-level management guy at Pfizer.
That's a lie. The executive Pfizer guy caught by Project Veritas is not some middle-level management guy, and we've got the proof. We've got his Pfizer official job specification, which shows that he reported to the highest levels of the company, to the top leadership team running Pfizer. And this is that Pfizer document here for you. We'll go through it now. Before we begin, we will not be discussing Dr. Jordan Walker's statements and comments about what Pfizer is doing, what they're planning, what their ideas are for mRNA development. We won't be discussing any of that because, as this video is on YouTube initially, it's not a subject which YouTube will allow. However, we will be discussing exactly his role within Pfizer. From the October 3rd, 2021, which was when he was hired by Pfizer. This is the job specification which he received. He was told, folks, that he would be leading high priority projects within Pfizer's worldwide research, development and medical division. He was told he would be working directly with senior leaders, including the president of Worldwide Research and Development and Medical, to develop a roadmap for the organization and to drive change. He is a strategic leader who is tasked with developing the mRNA vision for Pfizer. You'll see more of that as we go on in the document. He was told, and who is these people he's reporting to? Well, let's take a look at some of the people. That's Michael Dalston, who is Chief Scientific Officer and President. That's one of the Pfizer executive leadership team to which he was directly reporting. And he's the guy who came in and turned around Pfizer. He is their top R&D guy. Unquestionably, him and Dr. Jordan Walker were architects of the mRNA strategy together. Let's go back to his job specification. He will drive selected projects within the WDRDM and deliver business critical insights to Pfizer leaders such as the executive leadership team. The executive leadership team of Pfizer. And these are the people, Dr. Albert Bourla among them, to whom he was reporting. He was directly reporting to the top leadership. In addition to reporting to Bourla, he was also reporting as his line commanders to William Powell, the Executive Vice President for Development, Amir Malik, the Business Innovation Officer, Angela Wang, who is biopharmaceuticals, obviously that's an important part of the, Michael Dalston, to whom he directly reported, and Bill Carpezzi, who's Global Business Services and Transformation Executive. This is the leadership of Pfizer, and this is the people to whom he was reporting. And what were the responsibilities of Dr. Jordan Walker, which required his access to the top leadership? Well, his responsibilities, as we see here, was specifically developing the strategic vision for mRNA technology at Pfizer. That's straightforward enough, isn't it? Developing the strategic vision. He's the architect of Pfizer's mRNA technology. The vision for that, and advancing these priorities in collaboration with Pfizer's chief scientific officers and other leaders, and critically and tellingly maximizing the effectiveness of the president of WRDM on key internal and external deliverables. That means working directly with the guy who turned Pfizer around, this guy here, their top R&D guy. Dr. Michael Dalston, the architect of Pfizer's R&D. It's clear that he's a right-hand man based on that instruction to maximize Dalston's effectiveness, and because he's tasked specifically with mRNA, and that's in the specification before you could even get the job, is to have that ability, then he's clearly a right-hand man for the main guy who drives Pfizer's R&D. That's not just some middle-level management guy. For the record, he is not called, it's here Director R&D and mRNA Scientific Strategy, right? But internally, it's Director Scientific and Operational Initiatives. That's his internal title. This is from a Pfizer Insider document which was released by Project Veritas, which shows in the last few days from their internal systems what he's described as. So that's what he was hired for. And another interesting point to bear in mind is that Pfizer did not want to hire externally for this, essentially, because earlier versions of that job specification, which I showed you, required that you had knowledge of Pfizer's R&D and operational aspects, which means you had to be a Pfizer insider. So they wanted to recruit internally. They didn't, couldn't, or decided not to, and we ended up with Dr. Jordan Walker, who is actually a medical doctor. So that's his background, and he's officially a doctor. He's not entirely medically illiterate. And we'll get to the World Economic Forum stuff in just a moment. But there are some other interesting people who are involved with Pfizer, and this is now at a board of directors on the board of Pfizer. We have, for example, Scott Gottlieb, who is part of something called National Resilience Inc., and Susan Desmond-Hellman, who was part of the Gates Medical Research Institute, Bill and Melinda Gates Medical Research Institute, and also National Resilience, which is an interesting little outfit. By the way, that's another of these board members of that Scott Gottlieb, who is a previous commissioner for the FDA. I'm sure there's absolutely no conflicts of interest there and in that position. But Resilience is an interesting outfit, and these people are also tied in remaking the way medicines are made. So this is the new generation, gene therapy, etc. The people sitting at the top of Pfizer are also involved in this stuff on the board level with all of these aspects of what Resilience is up to. So there's huge crossover here, and Boston Consulting also involved here, which is where Dr. Jordan came from before he came to Pfizer. And this is Boston Consulting here. This is their website. They're advertising their Climate Vision 2050. Yes, this is where he came from, folks. This is where Dr. Jordan Walker came from, is Boston Consulting. You're watching their website. You see what it's all about? Very good. You're getting the picture? Very good. Needless to say, that kind of nonsense makes Boston Consulting very popular with the World Economic Forum, where they have authored a number of articles on the World Economic Forum's website to help leaders in the new reality of COVID-19, for example, back in 2020, when they were outlining the priorities as organizations would need to be reconceived to combine human ingenuity with machine learning. Terrific. And they were also very focused on the World Economic Forum website again with minding the information gap and why that's important. This was by Trey Sexton for Boston Consulting, how contact tracing and cybersecurity needed additional expert and public attention. Right down to this also from Boston Consulting's societal impact practice about techniques and technologies to figure out how much does a chocolate cookie really cost. And a chocolate cookie can be figured out in terms of its true cost, because that will help companies and governments manage the trade-offs necessary to make this food system work for people and the planet. It's very important that the food system works for people and the planet. Not the corporations now who are putting this stuff down. It's the people and the planet, dude. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. Look, there's the current cost of the chocolate cookie at 55 cents. But, there are other costs borne by society and, the planet. And so the true cost should really be 89 cents, which is 34 cents tax on top of 55 cents. About 60% extra tax on chocolate cookies, which we can then redirect into important things like fueling the planet with rainbows. You see, this is Boston Consulting and the World Economic Forum and Dr. Jordan Walker and Pfizer looking out for you guys. But finally, I have a little bit of advice for Dr. Jordan Walker, just general advice, not specific or relevant to anything that's happened recently, but in general, let's talk about the difference between gain of function and directed evolution. Well, gain of function is where you cut and paste in order to achieve something using splicing technology, and you insert sequences into other sequences. That's what gain of function is. Whereas directed evolution is more like cooking something to see what it develops itself over time, and maybe using mice or using the poor monkeys in order to achieve that desired result. But there is another way to do it without having to grab the poor primates and give them the old jab. There is another way of doing it, which is a specialization of Dr. Stephen Quay, who's been kind enough to correspond with me during the course of all of this kerfuffle about mRNAs. And his ability is to figure out what the virus is going to do next based on its genome alone, just by using the head. So you don't have to wait for it to come up with mutations. You can predict the mutations that it will take in advance. Hey, you should check that out, Jordan. That's if Dr. Stephen Quay will have anything to do with a company like Pfizer after all of this. But you never know. There's his Twitter page anyway, and I'll put a link in the description to that. I won't put a link to the source I have on all this information about the job specification of Dr. Jordan Walker just yet. I'll wait 24 hours and then I'll post the source of that. In the meantime, you can rely on the information. You can always rely on what you get here on breakfornews.com with the beautiful truth. And that's it for this edition. I hope you'll join me soon for more. But in the meantime, for breakfornews.com and informedconsent.ie, this has been Vincent Dunn reporting. See you soon.